There we go. All right. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you guys.
Hey,
Jason, you there?
I am. I'm having trouble getting my video to work, but I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah. Good to hear you.
Yeah. Good to see you.
Um, so I was expecting at least one more person, but no need to hold off. Let's just get started. Like last time, I don't have any um particular agenda in mind. I've certainly been thinking about a variety of different things, but just thought I'd throw it open to anybody who's got anything to say.
Well, I missed the last visit. I did, if anyone was interested, kind of organize a little, kind of a bit of a demo of just a little Spanish project that I built for myself, and it's been going pretty well. Uh, Meaning I'm still doing it a month later, a month and a half later. So if anyone was interested, I'm using AI to help me learn Spanish, um, which has been kind of cool.
Yeah, show us
And then,
show us what
yeah,
you got to show.
and then the only other thing I was going to say is that I know there's a few users here, Gil, and Alice, who are on the Discord server, and it might make sense for us to, at some point in time, just try to do a video channel and just see how it works. Because that might be a really easy way to keep all the conversations together in the future, but not really necessary. So, yeah, I am interested in traveling through Central and South America, and obviously it's great to have Josh down there to go visit. And well, who knows what the future holds? I don't know Spanish, and I really feel like if I'm going to travel down there, I have to learn it. So, I don't really learn very easily using kind of traditional methods. And so, um, years ago, I learned a considerable amount of conversational Russian using a method that is like a conversational type disc thing. So, anyways, long story short, I use AI with my work. And so with ChatGPT, I created a project for Spanish. And basically, what I do is I instruct AI to use the method that I like from this other, like, kind of methodology for learning Spanish. And so I can go through my notes, which are all curated by AI for me after my conversations, and then I practice. So it's been really, really cool. And I don't know if I can. I'm not super great with Zoom, so is it possible for me to turn my camera around? It is. I see that. Okay. So what I'm going to show you here first off is this is obviously my computer screen here with AI, and I'm going to just kind of show you here. So I have, for example, Spanish lessons, and today I had a practice lesson that was this. And as you can see, this lesson was pretty extensive. So this is all conversational. So what I'm doing is I'm using this little button down here that allows me to speak to the AI agent. Um, so I could answer it. And, I can't demonstrate it right now because I've run out of the time on I have like a basic service here, but I'll say, buenos dias, and then it will start talking to me, and then I will start practicing. I might start counting numbers. I might, talk about a subject that's on my mind and just let myself work in that direction. So like today I was talking about cooking food, and preparing food, cooking food, asking if people are hungry, that sort of thing. And when I'm done, I end up giving myself basically a breakdown of the conversation, all the key phrases, with some phonetics, and also important components of the language, verb usages, grammar, and then I can refer to this. So when I'm bored, I pick it up and I'll start reading off, tienes hambre, yo tengo hambre. Obviously, I'm not an expert yet, but puedo cocinar, or yo puedo cocinar, huevos y bacon. I just I'm learning about the things that I would most probably say in Spanish. If I was feeding people, I'd serve them eggs and bacon, I'd make you coffee or tea, that sort of thing. So it's been a really cool tool. And but I don't use the way my computer set up is very much a work machine. So I can't show you the voice feature because it's on my phone, but I do the lessons on my phone, and it's super handy. And that's, in a nutshell, the system. And I most probably have about 20 pages of notes just like this.
See,
That's it.
really? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it really. And it's been a lot of fun. And I'm getting to the point where I feel like I might be comfortable talking to other people in Spanish as I go. But it's cool to start developing an understanding of the language as well. But that's basically all I'm doing. And so, but if you have your phone and you have a tool like ChatGPT where you can use a voice feature, you can just prompt it and say, I want to learn this particular language, and I'd like us to just sort of start with something that's easy and comfortable. And what's fun is let's say, because you're in control of the whole conversation, you could walk down a path. So let's say, like, for example, today when I was learning about puedo, it's like, puedo is I can, like, or yo puedo. It allows me, like, by having this conversation about food, I now kind of can immediately start using that in different ways. And it's just been kind of fun. And so in the lesson today, I was kind of throwing out various ways that I could imagine using it. And AI would say, oh, yeah, that's right. Or no, that's not right. Can't use it that way. Here's the word you would use for this. So the difference of cocinar is for cooking, for example, and preparar, which I might be pronouncing wrong, is, like to make things that require preparation. And it just, little details like that are kind of glued in my brain.
Turns
And
around.
fun. And that's all I have.
Are you in these interactions, are you speaking or are you typing?
Speaking completely. It's like fully conversational, and the conversation is fully logged as a conversation in text as well.
And so
So,
does
yep.
ChatGPT know that you're trying to learn Spanish, so it kind of just talks back to you and teaches you Spanish, or is it just trying to talk back to you and you're in a normal conversation as a Spanish speaker?
It's like talking to somebody who knows Spanish and knows you're trying to learn it,
Okay.
and completely can interact with you as if you're talking to a person. So to use the example today, I was kind of like, okay, so what other ways can you use cocinar? And it was basically, that's like cooking, like making food, to cook. And then, but preparing, like, you can think of all the different ways you can prepare. And literally all I just started doing is like thinking of ways to use that. And the AI just knows to work with me on that. So you kind of prompt it to be an educator and a Spanish language teacher. And sometimes it'll answer things in Spanish that are really detailed. And if I can kind of pick up on some of the words, I'll let it keep talking. And then I will say, okay, let me try to read back what you wrote and see if I understand it. And I will literally try to disseminate a sentence. And then I'll say, but can you verify what I just said is correct or not? And it will be like, oh no, you got this idea right, but this is what I said. It's very conversational. Yeah, it's really handy. And I'd be happy to, on a one-on-one basis, if somebody is not able to produce that result, demonstrate it. But because I don't have cameras on my computer, I'm using my phone for the meeting today. But otherwise, I would just demo it with the phone. Yeah, it's really fun, and the technology it's like I said, it's kind of frightening, but yeah, and the AI agent, will literally be like it'll speak to me in very simple ways, like claro, great job. All right, let's go on to the next thing. But if I want it to stop and just focus on something, it'll just immediately redirect itself to whatever I need. So really useful tool. And even if you were to get like the advanced version of something like OpenAI, which is $20 a month, if I can learn Spanish for $200 this year, enough to be able to buy food or have good conversations, I'd be happy. But it's just something to try if anybody's interested.
Would you be able to record a session and then like post a video of it or something on Discord so that
Oh
somebody
yeah, that's actually a good point. I most probably could do that by, yeah, I think I should be able to do that. I might be able to do that. I'd have to think about how to do that, but yeah, I should be able to. Yeah. Um, but it's like a very interesting thing. I use AI for my regular work, and literally the productivity is kind of crazy. So,
I think you kind of covered what my question would be. Sorry to interrupt, Michael, but like I know very, very, very little about AI other than like Spotify works really well for me because of AI, I guess. But I literally like I've never used anything aside from Chat GPT or just asking like the internet questions. And I hear you saying there's like you would pay like a subscription for good AI because I assume there's different gradations. Like I can't even picture what the format of that would be like because all I can picture is like the Chat GPT chat bar. So I would definitely be interested in hearing more about that at some time. It doesn't have to be right now, but that would also for me include like basically explaining how to work AI.
yeah, I mean, in the end, I do think it is really important for everybody because this technology is going to be part of our lives pretty much forever at this point. Definitely worth learning a little more about it. But I am, yeah, basically using ChatGPT. Just because of my work, I use like their API to send questions through like coding, through programs to their, the agent through like if for clients and to solve problems. So I pay this $20 a month fee. So I don't know if the basic might even offer the chat built right into it. You would know if you open up your phone and put ChatGPT in, and if you see like a little kind of looks like a voice wave button by the chat area, just press that and then speak. And you might see like a little bubble pop up, and that's the agent then speaking back to you. And the conversation will get recorded. So that might be something just to try.
Yeah, that would be and like kind of unrelated, but I've been using Duolingo for French, but I basically already know a whole bunch of French, so I can't tell how useful it is. And also that passive aggressive owl telling me what I need to do is like driving me insane. Like it's literally like making me not want to do it. So I didn't even think of Chat GPT or whatever as an option. So thank you for picking that up.
Well, but that's a great point. Like I can't use a system where it says, do this now. Like the way my mind works, I have to have real interest in a subject. And if I do, and so I could learn some obscure thing in Spanish today, but because I'm interested, I'll retain it well. But if I'm not interested, or if it's like you have to do X,
Yeah, it's like I'm super interested. I love French, and then that owl sends me a fucking email telling me that I'm breaking its heart by not doing my French lesson. I'm like, I literally on purpose don't do it because of that. Okay, anyhow, that's not related, but okay, I'm not alone in that.
I think that's so funny because I know exactly what that feels like.
So I use the basic version, the unpaid version, and I just looked, and it says that it can't respond directly, but there is a way to use a built-in text-to-speech feature. So it sounds like it might take some finagling, but that it could work with the free version.
Yeah, it may, but I will say that that conversational piece, if that's not available, that's how I use it. But you could, for example, like use the speech to text feature and just be like, I would like to learn about numbers, and can you please give me a list of 1 through 100 with the phonetics, and then you could see it, read it out, so you don't have to use the voice feature. I just thought it was cool and it worked. I was like, oh, this is really neat, because it's kind of having like a fake person teaching you Spanish.
Interesting to me thing I've ever heard about AI, other than Spotify and YouTube knowing what music to send me. Like, I'm not even kidding. This is the first like I understand AI is useful to the world at large and other people, but this is the first thing that actually pertains to me where I'm like, oh, that could be interesting and useful.
No, I would love to, if what I'm sharing could be of any value. And another piece of this, Josh, which might be interesting, like um, I have it set to help me understand Peruvian Spanish specifically. So it's taught me words like chumpa for like a sweater or like a warm cloth. Like that's a very unique word in Peruvian language, which the minute I learned that, I was like, oh, that's cool. Chumpa for like a sweater or like some sort of warm thing. And so it does also. I've literally said, like, if there's something unique to Peruvian Spanish, like or words that might be interesting, let me know about them. So that also occurs, which is neat. So when I open up the lesson, I'll be like, do you know what I'm trying to do? And AI remembers your other conversations. So it'll be like, you're trying to learn Spanish. You're trying to do it this way. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what, let's get started. And then I literally might just start counting or something, and then something will come to my mind. I just let it go in that direction. But yeah, it's very fun and very free flowing. So, but I will try to put together some sort of demo of the conversation, and then I'll share that on Discord.
Yeah, because I think you may take for granted a certain base level of facility that a lot of people don't have. Like I had to get on a call with you just so you could walk me through how to prompt ChatGPT to make an image. And it's an incredibly useful tool that I'll probably be using forever now. And it took you 10 minutes to show me how to do it. But for you it seems almost insignificant, but for somebody who's starting out from square one, even
Yeah.
just that much is leaps and bounds beyond where they're currently at.
No, exactly. Like Elizabeth, anybody, feel free to message me too, and I'd be happy to take some time to show you, because it is ultimately just a couple things to keep in mind. But once you're using it like that, it is very straightforward. But like Josh, and a great example for everybody here is like Josh was wanting to create an image, and so my background is actually in fine arts from an educational standpoint, and I struggle with using these tools for images, and it has a lot to do with the fact that I don't have a great command of grammar and English in that sense. Obviously, I can speak it, and uh, so when I try to use it to produce an image, it only can generate an image once through a prompt. It can't remember what it drew, And then like, like let's say you say, just turn it lighter green or imagine some picture or whatever. It can't do that. You have to kind of re-prompt and regenerate an image each time. And when I was working with Josh, he had this like super complex metaphor um, and this idea for an image. But because Josh's writing is so good, AI had a very clear understanding of what he wanted, and Josh took the time to prompt it, I think maybe like several times, and it produced a really good image that was very much what Josh was looking for. And I realized, okay, this is not something I'm good at, but for Josh, that ability to communicate very precisely made making images actually really, really good. So I would definitely say it's everybody's got their strengths and but it is required to have some knowledge.
Yeah, a demo I think would be very useful.
Yeah, I will put one up. And don't laugh at me because again, I am doing this by myself, so I most probably make a lot of mistakes.
Well, as someone who has taught English to Spanish speakers, the other way around from what you're doing, every single person in the world who's trying to learn a language thinks that they are uniquely stupid or incapable. And it's just that learning a language is a very uncomfortable process. And I think I don't know how Duolingo works, but my sense is that it doesn't it doesn't involve speaking. And that to me is it's I don't want to put it down and say it's a complete waste of time, but if you're not speaking, then you're not going to make a lot of progress.
It
And
does involve speaking, but it's very not picky on your pronunciation. So it does, and it's not speech heavy, which really speaking and listening, as we all know, really where where the rubber hits the road. I can read something and figure it out eventually. But yeah, it will, yeah, it's very game-like. It's got a lot of game-like attributes, but there is a speaking element, but it's not, because I know French classes and I'll hear myself say it and it'll be like, good job. And and it's not picky at all, which is not helpful.
Elizabeth, out of curiosity, when you use that, can you like I guess let me ask it this way. I was saying earlier is that I can literally change the direction of the lesson. Let's say
No,
just some random. Can you do that? This is, I mean, and the thing is,
absolutely not.
it pronounces Spanish very well. It's really wild. It
Yeah,
will. I mean,
that's
like for example, like
interesting.
that R sound. That's like kind of like French R, but not French R. Like repetir, like a really
Yeah,
short
right.
R. Like I could hear it explain the difference between the French longer R sound, which I kind of know, and it's like a
Yeah.
quicker R sound, and it made the sound for me. I was like, oh, I get that now.
No,
Because
it sounds vastly superior to Duolingo, vastly superior. And Duolingo does have an AI component that you can pay for, which they had like a free sample of it, and then it does kind of what you're saying, and it also like you can have conversations with it. But again, I don't think it's that. I think it's very lenient on your pronunciation, which is not helpful to me. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
no,
no,
it doesn't. It's like a French textbook in like middle school where like this is the order you're going to learn things in, and you can take the I went through and like took a bunch of unit tests and tested ahead of where I was, but other than that, you're just going in a linear fashion in the order that Duolingo thinks you should go in, and it'll be on like some kind of grammar, and then just like a textbook in high school or whatever, where like the grammar is also associated with like subject matter, like it'll be like grammar and also how you talk about things at school or how you talk about sports. And there's definitely no option to like go off in a direction that interests you or any direction at all. It's very linear and prescribed. So
yeah, no, I completely can imagine.
and it's
It,
passive aggressive. It sends you emails when you haven't been doing it, which like I know it sounds silly to be upset about, but like it makes me not want to do it. So I'm very interested in what you're talking about for Spanish and for French, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you can literally use it for every language, and it's remarkable. So I'm going to definitely do a quick recording really soon, maybe tomorrow morning's lesson, and I'll just do like 5 minutes and record it, and then share it on the Discord for sure. Absolutely.
So speaking of the Discord, Alice and I both had ran into troubles trying to create a new channel. Mike, do you have any idea of like, or maybe could you share your screen and go into Discord and show us how you create a channel, and then we can confirm or deny that we don't have that same capability.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I literally Discord, I never really used it before. So I'm gonna try to sign in with my work, and I will just
Yeah. See,
okay. So, this is so weird because now I can see myself in Tutor. It's really odd. Okay. Yeah, so now let me take over the screen, and I can do that. Share. Oh no, sharing not turned on.
Oh, let's see.
No, let's go. I'll send a request to you just in case.
Yep. There you go.
Okay. So share. Let me find my Discord stuff here. Okay. So can you see this here?
Yep.
Okay. So here we have channels. And so what I did was I created users, a user role. So the user roles are basically what you should be able to do if anyone has Discord open right now is you should be able to click on a text channel, for example, and you should see something like this. Is there anybody else on Discord right now?
I'm on it.
If
Oh,
not,
wow.
we will create
Yeah,
another.
that's there on mine now.
Okay, so I'm just going to do, so you want to type in, you have to hyphenate it. So if you have a channel topic you wanted to add, go ahead and type in that channel name and just make sure there's a hyphen between the words and all lowercase.
I just can't believe that that was sitting there that whole time and I didn't notice it. But
It's okay. It's a new interface for me too, 100%.
Alice, can you access Discord and confirm that you can see that as well?
Yeah, so that's what I'm working on, but I know for a fact that I have not had that plus sign. I have looked everywhere. I watched all the videos trying to figure it out, and I'm like, this is so simple in the videos, but when I would go to do it, the function didn't seem to be available. So I'm going to pull it back up and see.
Yeah, I did create this user, and I would have to kind of go back and remember how I did it, but I did create a user called Boaters or something silly like that. But it gave people access to creating these different channels.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so if you see a plus here,
I can see it on my end too.
you can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got
and
it. Yeah.
and so basically once you build that channel, you can have a thread, you can obviously create your own thread. And I don't know, Gil, if you've used it much before, but
No, not at all. What's a voice channel?
well, there's video chat and voice channels. So if you wanted to, for example, if we were all on like I change my headset to my phone when I'm doing this, but if let's say you're on Discord and I'm on Discord, I could text you or message you and say, "Hey, let's go on to a voice chat." We both could go into the general channel and then just talk to each other.
Basically talk like you're talking on the phone.
Exactly. Anybody in the group can, anybody in the voice chat can then will be listed and can just talk to each other freely. And there's also a video chat, which I'm wondering if I somehow disabled the video chat now that I usually it says video chat as well. So I'm not sure. I'm gonna go through and figure out these settings more specifically, and I'm gonna give. I'd be comfortable giving everybody like full access to just do whatever if people are okay with that, as long as nobody would like delete stuff, from the, let's just keep everything here, and unless somebody wants to, do that. But that's the thing. You can also share your screen. You can do a variety of things. So it's very much like Zoom, but we just all go on to the Discord server and kind of hang out there.
So I can see it now in the web browser, but I still can't see it in the app. Is there a different place to look for it in the app?
I don't know the answer to that question, unfortunately. Oh, I see you're on a phone device.
I'm on, but I have both open.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do you see it on the computer?
Yeah, I can see it now on the computer. It wasn't there before, but I still don't see it on the app.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't see it on the app, because it seems like these are very much generic settings. I'm wondering, well, let's do this. Let's make a note. Let me make a note to myself here to look into the Discord server. I'm just going to add myself a little task to dig into this. I mean, my oldest son is 32 as of 3 days ago, and literally his entire life is spent on Discord. All of his friends, they just get on it and talk all night. At least that's what I gather. But Alice, if I were to give you like the full access, and Josh and anybody else, would everyone be okay if I just gave everybody like admin level access? I gave when I did the boaters, it was like create everything, but it wasn't full admin. So maybe I need to just give everybody admin access.
I would say for now that's fine. If it starts growing more to the point where that could become unworkable, then we could revisit that. But for the moment, we're all just trying to figure out how to use it. So the more capabilities that each person has, probably the better.
No, that's fine. And yeah, like I said, I am definitely in the learning phase too. But this is the general gist of how it works. When we're all on the server, we can communicate by text, voice chat. We can do meetings. We can share each other's screens. Obviously, we can save documents. And, if we're having a meeting, we put something up with Spanish speaking or with mutual aid or whatever. We can just sort it all right there.
Oh, I just figured it out. So if you're in the app, there's no plus sign. But if you hold down where it says text channel, like you have to, for those of you who are using the app, you have to hold your finger on where it says text channel for a second or two. And then a box pops up and it gives you an option to create a channel down at the bottom.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. So if somebody wants to create a channel, feel free.
Awesome.
Yeah, and just as a side note, so text channels are obviously the threads for, different topics and sharing documents. But if you're doing video or voice, you could create multiple channels just to curate your conversations properly too.
Right on. So maybe let's I think we've done what we needed to do on Discord. Like I said, I don't have any specific meeting agenda for tonight, but it's just kind of an interesting dynamic when some of us have been here each time and some have not, and to know what what the group might or might not want to talk about. But Mike and I, off just between us, had a conversation the other day about he's been to Peru once before and he's coming back again in August, I think, with Arunima, his wife. And something that we talked about a bunch of different things, all of which would be potentially interesting in the context of this group. One thing that's been on my mind is I've been living here in Peru for 6 years now, but I've traveled very, very little. So I just don't know much of Peru beyond Lima. And my understanding is that Peru is extremely diverse in terms of terrain and climate, and so there's just a lot that I don't know. And if we're trying to brainstorm about an array of different possibilities, all of which fall under this lifeboat umbrella, then it would behoove me and potentially other members of this group to get better acquainted with different parts of Peru. So just the idea of maybe thinking about sometime in the future organizing like a group tour where we whoever's willing and able comes to Lima, and as a group we go check out, I don't know, 3 or 4 parts of the country that might each serve different potential purposes. I feel like we're flying blind, including myself, even though I've been here for years, because I can't even picture what does Oxapampa look like? What does Arequipa look like? What does the jungle region look like? What does the mountain region look like? What business opportunities might or might not work in different places. So I just thought that might be a cool thing to put kind of on the long-term radar screen as a fun possibility to consider.
Count me in. I'll be up for it. One thing that kind of, I have like, I guess, I don't know, concern about, but I don't speak Spanish very well, so it'd be good to have like a local tour guide to travel around with that speaks the language really well and knows the area well. So you guys do the recon work up front and pick out some good spots, and I'll come down for sure.
No, that'd be fun.
Again, I don't know what to talk about, what not to talk about, but one thing that this is completely random, but it's an idea that both Mike and I have found very interesting to think about, is if you fly into Lima during the day and you can see what you're flying over, you will notice that that Lima is situated in a desert. All around it is just nothing, nothing. Um, and I assume that's because, you just cannot do anything with that land. There's no water, there's no power. Um, but Lima is also this enormous city of 11 or 12 million people, and you drive 30 minutes out of it, and there's nothing there. Um, so, and another aspect of the very strange climate here is that it's very, very humid all the time. Like I can't keep a leather jacket here because in a month in my closet it will be covered in mildew. It's that humid all the time. So it just occurred to me, I wonder I wonder if there's some way of capturing moisture from the air and using it um, to water crops and thereby make this land that is, a stone's throw away from a mega city and completely unused at this point, productive. Um, so
A giant dehumidifier. Need to invent one. Probably already is something like that,
yeah,
but
we looked into it, and these technologies exist, and
They're
and
doing it to make gasoline now. I just saw that. Have you seen that? Or they're sucking um they just have I don't know the technology, but I just saw it where they just use something where it sucks something out of the air and they're creating gasoline with it. It's fascinating.
wow.
Yeah.
And actually, Josh, you bringing those up kind of reminds me of something I think I said to you is that, you know, one of the things, first off, I like about this group is that, obviously everybody's here kind of because they know Josh. And Josh and I have always like bounced ideas or talked about things. And one of the things that's funny is we're all kind of here because, you know, it's a very weird time and it is very distressing. I am just generally worried, for very personal reasons. And these concepts, like just the idea of like the idea that I have, like, for example, I've got a queer kid who's trans and I'm worried for them. I live in a very safe state for queer people. But it's getting kind of like, okay, the scapegoats are South and Central Americans and queer people, and scapegoats are really critical for authoritarians because they need power. So I'm genuinely, I worry for my own family. And so we literally are thinking if we see our world deteriorate, we want to be prepared and we're prepared to like kind of on a shoestring figure out how to make that work. But meaning that at the end of the day, I just think playing around with ideas, letting our imaginations roam, like Josh said, like what if we all could figure out a time to get, or a bunch of people could get together and just kind of go check something out together. If that was of interest, I'm like on board if we could figure out how to make that work. Or if we're just talking about mutual aid or learning languages, whatever this ends up being, if this just ends up being a great way to help each other just be healthier, I'm all in. But what Josh was talking about, I weirdly have an interest in aquaponics and like unique systems, like enclosed systems like that. And I do that in my home. And so when Josh brings this up, it's like, I actually kind of find that interesting. So but I just think we should all be comfortable to just share whatever we're thinking, even if it kind of sounds fantastical or odd. And I just hope everyone feels safe to kind of take this in any path. Like at the end of the day, there's a positive space as far as I'm concerned.
Like, it's interesting to me that you bringing up, like, technically or technologically useful things because, like, I consider myself to be well, I'm not a handy person anyway. Like I need to develop, like, I just think about sci-fi books that I read and like how when shit goes down, if they're like we lose infrastructure and all that kind of stuff, like I don't actually have any useful skills, and I want to develop some or some kind of knowledge or something. I think I know Josh watches, or I don't want to out you on this, but has watched Naked and Afraid also, and it's just like, just think about that kind of thing. And I don't have any, I could talk my way out of anything or talk my way into anything, but I don't have any like per se useful or practical skills or knowledge in any way. And like I want to, but I don't even know where that would start or what would be useful or even a base level of knowledge to learn about whatever the aqua something was. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I don't know, like I feel like there's like this like and I want to make time and space in my life for that kind of thing, but I literally don't even know where to start brainstorming on it other than watching Naked and Afraid and thinking I should learn how to make a fire from nothing. That would probably be handy. But
But though but your point though is like you do have an imagination. You have, that anything that you find interesting, it's like at the end of the day, I brought up this example, which Josh is mentioning too, which is just something when he had mentioned the humidity and he had said, "Oh, it'd be really cool if you could do something like this."
yeah.
I was like, I weirdly have thought about this, So by just brainstorming or talking, we came up with things. So, maybe that's not something that you know anything about, but our healthy imagination is like one of the best things to explore new ideas, and maybe it's something totally different. And I guess that's what I was just saying is like when we're talking about things, like I said, in some ways, this is who knows where it leads. You just let it be, and if something sparks your interest, it sparks your interest. And if it doesn't, it doesn't.
Mhm.
I mean, what if this conversation never leads to the creation of anything concrete, but Gil, you learn how to speak Spanish by just having your mind open to the possibility of using AI as a Spanish teacher. Like that
Right.
alone would in my mind make it have been worthwhile to be part of this. So I think I'm sure I've commented on this in past meetings, but I think something that I've noticed in the responses that I've gotten from people who I've talked to about this idea, this lifeboat community idea, is that people tend to want to define it in their mind. What does that mean? Um, and they draw a picture, and that picture can be very limiting. And it was limiting for me in the beginning, and it meant that I was not as effective as I could have been in communicating all of the potential that this might have, because I was talking about, building a safe, self-sustaining farm in rural Peru that rules out a lot of people for a variety of different reasons. But it's become clear, this is, I think, meeting number 4. And there are new people coming in, there are old people coming back, there are uh, there's an expanding menu of different themes that are emerging, um, and that's great. And anyone who falls into the trap of thinking that they know what this um, is potentially, blocking out anything else that this might
Mhm.
be able to might become. So
Mhm.
these Zoom meetings are not, I would say, the ideal um, venue in which to conduct a whole bunch of parallel disconnected conversations. We might want to have a farm. We might want to have a language institute. We might want to have a school for my kid, for Colby's kids. we might want to have an aquaponic, experimental.
Geoengineering experiment.
Yeah. And a Zoom meeting is not the best way to conduct all of those diverse conversations. But I think that Discord might be, and it's been slow getting the Discord thing off the ground, but 3 meetings ago it didn't even exist. Last meeting it existed, but had only been visited by 4 people, and now there's 6 people, and multiple people have at least done something on it. Who knows what it might be 3 or 4 meetings in the future. Now that we know how to create channels, like that's another leap forward in the potentialities that we as a group can potentially make of it. So that's just kind of another pitch to everyone to try to cultivate a habit of checking in on Discord and just doing something. Like, I've posted videos, not because I think everybody needs to see those videos, but because I want to prime the pump and get engagement going. And I think that if everybody does that, a couple times a week, then it may generate some self-sustaining momentum.
I'm right with you in that. It's just an incremental thing. I do think if we can figure out if we can encourage everybody to maybe the next meeting, whoever's on, make sure they have an invite to Discord and get it set up. Maybe we just take like a half hour to do that. Because literally the cool part about that is, like, if Alice was on Discord and I'm on Discord, we can literally just have a conversation. We could just be like, hey, what's up? How are you? You could talk about something, because I think, Alice, you're, for example, affiliated or work within the hospitality industry. I grew up in the hospitality industry, something I'm very interested in. And if I were to consider doing something in, for example, Peru, it would most probably be tied to that, even if it was some sort of rental or something. I would be, there might be opportunities for us all in our own ways to chat with each other. And so if we set up the Discord server, it's kind of like a chat space, so you just, you could literally we could just be getting to know each other, all of us in our own ways, in that opportunity as well. So just, I think it'd be great to maybe take a little time next time to dig into that. That's all I have. Dan, did you get that link?
Did get that link, and I am in.
Sweet.
Yeah. Yes. Well, to your point about conversations in Discord, like, we use it to play Minecraft with Uncle Matt, who lives in.
And your volume is really low. It's kind of hard to hear you.
Hang on a sec. Oh, that's interesting. Hang on. Can you hear me better now, Josh?
Yes.
Should I use my hospitality voice? I got the link, and what I was saying is, we actually use Discord a lot to play video games with Uncle Matt, who lives in Ohio. But you can talk it up. You can have multiple person conversations and such. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, then if you have some experience with it, because it is kind of, it looks like an amazing tool, and I've just never had a reason to use it. So I'm all in. So maybe if I ever see you on here, I'll have you show me the ropes. But we got to set up some better permissions for everybody. and get everything rolling here, which I will do this week. I'll find some time and make sure, everybody has like a lot of control over the server, which is what they call this, by the way, for those. I think every Discord group is kind of a server.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Thanks. Thanks for setting that up, and thanks for the invite.
Well, yeah, my pleasure.
One obvious channel that we could set up on Discord would be if for anyone who's interested in this idea of setting up a group tour, we could set up a channel just for proposing destinations to include in that itinerary. And each person could take it upon themselves to look to something, and it might finding a dead end would be, in a sense, as valuable as finding a good destination, because by doing that, you're just focusing and you're separating the wheat from the chaff. So, somebody who is interested in learning about Cusco and Machu Picchu, somebody who's interested in learning about the jungle, and takes it upon themselves to just go find some information that might be of interest to the rest of us, and more specifically to anybody who's actually interested in getting on a plane and going and seeing stuff firsthand. That could be because if you said to me right now, where are the 4 places that we should go? We're gonna do a trip next month. Where do we go? My answers would not be very good. I would give, the sort of standard answers. You're supposed to go to Cusco when you come to Peru, but I don't actually know if that's a good answer for our purposes. So just to have a channel for throwing stuff at the wall, over time would potentially yield a much better itinerary than probably any of us could figure out at the moment.
Yeah, I totally get that. I definitely would love to roam around, just check out places, and at the end of the day, obviously going to the main tourist places. My daughter's in Cusco now. At the end of the time, she's going to Machu Picchu with her friends, and she's been touring all over South America, and it seems to be like that's the place everyone goes. But yeah, I mean, in my head, I genuinely just think about, like, if I had to go, could I survive if I just had to get a regular job? Could I do something? Because like I said, I worry for myself. I'm not I try not to be an alarmist, but when I see what happens currently, I know that there's a lot of people who just, we're just kind of watching. I'm optimistic everything's gonna be fine, but I also am just kind of aware that things are really weird. And so sometimes I think to myself, I just want to be prepared. And if I had to go and just have a job and just make a living and just barely scrape by, how would that look for me? That's the way I generally approach things like this. Could I do something like that? And then part of it is, like, obviously knowing your surroundings and being prepared. So I've always wanted to learn Spanish and travel there. So I'm using this as kind of an opportunity to do all those things. And this meeting kind of motivates me too, to do that. But I also just think about that kind of idea, just mutual aid. And, is everyone okay? Does anybody need anything? And, is there any way I can help anyone in the group, and vice versa?
Like, well, for me, sorry to interrupt, but like, it's along those lines about like thinking like what it would take to like leave the country or do something drastic. Like, I already am barely scraping by, and even in a great economy with people making good choices or whatever, I'll always be barely scraping by, and and that's okay. But like, I don't have anything holding me here that's like material in any way, and just in reference to the trans population, my daughter's other mother is a trans woman, and she lives in Manhattan, and she's a fully disabled vet who gets, all her stuff through the VA, and she's probably not going to be getting it through the VA anymore. And she lives in, Manhattan, which is a very queer friendly, progressive type place, and she lives in increased physical fear every day and just increased existential fear. And she's not my responsibility, but she's an important
No.
person to me. We're really, really, really close friends, thank God. I'm so grateful for that, because when she was a terrible man and we hated each other. But
Yeah.
she's also my kid's mom, and a person who I've seen turn her life around and be a great person. And it's very frustrating, and it's very like, at what point do I just like, give up on this? Not give up on it, but like, I don't want to. If I fully, if they start looking through people's Facebook accounts, I don't know how long it's going to take for them to get to the bossy, mouthy, left leaning white ladies, but I assume at some point they will. And especially, I don't know. It just wouldn't take all, honestly, the main reason I don't want to leave the US and leave Knoxville is because of my kung fu school. And that's the literal main reason.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't, I'm not like that far from the point where I'm like, fuck this place. I don't want to, not, I just know if I see something, I don't want to like, and not that I don't want to go to jail for protecting somebody, but if I see something happening, I'm not the kind of person who will not stop something from happening to somebody. And I don't really want to get killed by the police in the street. And I know I sound very alarmist or whatever, but
No,
it's
no,
not
no,
looking
but
good.
you're making a really good point, which is like it's not that nothing like this happens overnight. So just to
Yeah.
give you an idea, like my uh, family background, I'm Irish and German. My grandfather was a Nazi. Like my mother was a child, a little girl during World War II, and my whole life I grew up in Long Island. I had a really huge Jewish community around me, and as kids they would like tease me about that background, and it really made me learn about that very difficult aspect of my family's history. And what I kind of realized is these things happen very weirdly, like slowly and then all of a sudden, or kind of drip, drip, drip. And one of the things that I see is exactly like, here you have somebody in your life who who served our country, like literally would die. And there's like another group of people in America who are like, oh, trans people just were invented yesterday. Trans people couldn't be trans. Like just like people couldn't be gay 50 years ago easily.
Mhm.
There were people sticking their neck out, but it's that point that we're all humans, but scapegoats are a classic thing. And so it's like those little things. And so a person gets denied health care, and then their quality of life drops. And
Yeah.
then I have conservative friends who are in a mess that they might lose the funding for these really powerful drugs because they're like $100,000 a year. And they're like, I didn't know this was going to happen to me. I'm like, oh, this is what happens, And so it's incremental, and it's one of those things where I'm not one to just run away, but I recognize that I don't know if there's much you can do in life when things go funny. And so I just in my head go, well, do I have, and it wouldn't be easy for us to make a change like that, but I actively think about like, would I want a parachute, like a lifeboat, as Josh has said so eloquently. It's not like a lifeboat gives you great direction. It's just getting off of an uncomfortable situation to another. And like you said, you don't, in some ways, you that could be a potential for you, maybe not, but at the end of the day, this community can be as helpful as possible to everyone. So, it just, but I think it is something for us to just pay attention to. You watch what's happening in LA, which is like a few blocks, there's riots, and to quote a comedian, LA is like the fieriest city of all of the cities of the United States. But I'm watching police shooting journalists, like multiple journalists, demanding regular people leave when they have every right to walk wherever they want, even say what they want, and all of this. And I just realized, like, it's those little steps, and obviously, I'm not going to equate this to the whole world, but it's that idea that, I know people today who who don't stop and think like, oh, the police just can't tell you to deny you your rights because they're like, well, they have to, and when I hear somebody say that, I go, oh, it's just that idea that you no longer need to follow basic rule of law because it just feels safer. That's the sort of stuff I can too, and so I do worry, but I think it's still a long way out if there was a real issue. But the point is that we've got a community, and if I were to plant my feet in another place like Peru, if anybody needed to come in an emergency, that door would be wide open. So, that would be my thought. So even if only a couple people did something, if there was a time where I was like, hey, this is getting kind of crazy, and there's people down there, the door could be open, at least till people get settled or something. So, but this is all me just imagining.
I feel like the Language Institute idea is the easiest and safest and most effective, like, escape plan for every single person in this meeting, because anyone who is a native English speaker can, in a relatively short period of time, get enough work teaching English to Peruvians to survive. And simply knowing that you have that option, you don't have that option right now because we don't have the Lifeboat Language Institute up and running, but it's not inconceivable that we could have it up and running in 6 months' time or a year. And if that, God willing, it's never necessary. I personally think that the chances of it being necessary are a lot greater than most people think. I am not optimistic, as probably all of you know.
There is nothing to be optimistic about, sir.
Yeah, I think that things are very bad, and I think they're going to get a lot worse, and I cannot even imagine a scenario in which they get better. That may be my psychological makeup speaking. That may be me clouding reality with my filters, but it might not be. And if it happened right now, all of a sudden you kind of had to make a choice like my grandparents made, and my grandparents were German Jews. My grandfather left in the mid 20s, I think, maybe the late 20s. If it became a binary choice, like, do I go, do I stay, and having to make such a drastic all or nothing choice, that would be terrifying right now. But it might be a lot less terrifying if we as a group had spent 6 months to a year putting together something which could provide any one of us or all of us with a livelihood in the event that became necessary.
Um, I think that's a great point. At the end of the day, we always take people in Vermont to the Von Trapp Family Lodge. And I always think about, like that's a true story, right? There was like this, German family, a guy in the military is like Austrian. He's like, I don't want anything to do with this. And he packed up his family and they snuck out of Germany or Austria. Um, but the march to that process, there's a line. And I do think what you're saying, Josh, is like you're a very risk averse person, I think, in many ways. But that like radar, it's all personality driven. And for a lot of people like myself, there's economics involved in all of that. But I think one of the things as Americans, and this is my opinion, please don't, I obviously, my mom moved here. She loved this country. I for the most part, feel like America could be really great. But I live right by the Canadian border. I was just in Niagara. New York side is like a war zone. Blighted buildings, crime. You look over the river, beautiful, vibrant city, healthy community. Now their real estate's pretty effed up and Canada has its own problems, but people aren't like rage tweeting and they're much, much more calm and their lives are good. And I look at my life and I go, you know, sometimes you kind of don't even see what's happening in your own world, but I'm more than just an American. I'm a human being. I want to live a good life. And so, you know, if I were to take a step like this in the future, you know, I just think the idea that, you know, if other people needed that step and we get knowledge and help, if something like that happened, you know, it's just a path. It's just something. But I'm right with you, Josh. The only reason why I'm saying is I'm optimistic is that I believe that our connectivity through these very horrible things like social media also remind us we're not alone, which in the old days would have been much easier to do. So meaning that you know, you can't just control the newspaper to control thought. And so that's the one shred of hope I have, you know, is that the fact that we can all reach out like this, even, you know, or to me, I don't know what that power looks like just yet, but I think people are starting to realize like it's just real human connection near and far. It's my hope. But you know, every cop shooting a journalist gets filmed today. You know, where in 1933 a mob could just beat up a person on the street and the only people that had to think about it was the neighbors and they just sat quietly and let it happen. Right. So it's a different world in that sense. So it's the only thing I've hoped for.
I think the thing that has really shocked me, I don't know about you guys, but I just feel like I'm in a fog after this week. Like the thing that I think has really driven some things home for me is that I see those horrors and I see those atrocities and I think, my God, how is this happening? And the people around me are like, yeah, this is what we want. And I'm like, how can you see a person being trampled by a horse or being shot just trying to get home to their apartment or any number of these things? And the hate and the vitriol where people are so against whatever they're against that they're willing to see those images and they still have no humanity about it.
And that's absolutely terrifying. But honestly, to me, Alice, just as terrifying as that is the people around me who I always thought were like me and as smart as me and I love and care about who don't give a fuck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're not really interested.
Oh, I get that. And I hear more and more the people that I know who share a lot of the same values that I think everybody in this particular group shares. I hear more and more that they can't pay attention. They don't want to watch what's going on because they just don't want to see it. And I'm like, that's terrifying to me too, that the good people I know or the people that share the same values perhaps are looking the other way because they can't stand it and they don't know what to do about it. And then the other people around me, they're, you know, it's a level of hate I've never ever experienced in my life. Like, and I'm a social worker. And so my job is to protect all the people around me. And I feel endangered sometimes doing my job now because I'm called a libtard and, you know, all of these horrible things. I had somebody tell me this week they hoped that they saw the whole country lined with body bags because, you know, with people like me in it. And that's a level of like hate I have never experienced, I guess, you know, because of my privilege and, you know, the way I grew up. And it's terrifying. And I just have had many moments this week where I just have sat in disbelief and almost been frozen by it. Like,
where do you live, Alice? I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm just trying to, where do you live?
I live now in rural Northeast Tennessee. So sort of between Knoxville and Johnson City.
Okay, because I live in Knoxville and I was doing social work in Knoxville and I was having somewhat similar experiences.
When you're in a caring, helping profession, and suddenly all of a sudden people want to hurt you because you care about people. And I'm currently working in the school system, although my background is clinical. And I have children of all backgrounds in my school, and I'm just waiting for the day. I'm waiting for the day that they show up, because I'm sure if this continues, it will happen. And, I don't know if I can stand to see, parents and children ripped from the community. So, I don't know. This week has just been really difficult and scary. I'm scared, legitimately scared, for what comes next. And
I just want to say thank you for being a person who's staying in the school system right now and being there and being a caring person and witness who's concerned about it. So that makes me, I mean, I hate for you that you're in there, but that makes me feel better for rural kids in Tennessee that you're there. But I can't even imagine how hard that is. I'm really sorry. That sounds horrible.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It is certainly much more horrible for them than it is for me. I really feel for these families, and the things that they're scared of every day, just trying for their kids to get an education. So, anyway, I don't know. I feel like things have changed for me this week. Like, I was already kind of on edge, and like knowing that this could happen, but also hopeful that it wasn't going to. And I think this week I've lost that hope. Like, I don't think I don't think this is going to get any better anytime soon. And my fear is that it's going to get way worse. So having some sort of something, and I don't know what that looks like exactly, but, I don't know. This week has just changed things for me. I think like it's flipped a different kind of switch, seeing not just the things that are happening, but the way that other people are responding to them. And the fact that they can look at those things and go, yeah, that's what we wanted. We want that. We want those people to be hurt. We hate them so much. We don't want them to be here. We want journalists to be shot. We want, that is a level of vitriol that don't know that I've ever seen personally, in my lifetime. So it's been jarring.
I'm so sorry, and I mean, I, 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 like I said, my bigger fear is that this is a process that, and not everybody sees it, and some people will just lean into their comfort and privilege to just avoid thinking about it, and it's all scary. It's kind of, and I think that's why I genuinely, there's a part of me which thinks, well, if I had to take my family, I mean, my family, like all my kids are grown up, but listen, if you want to go, I'm going to find a place somewhere if needed. So it's a real genuine fear for me too. But I don't really know what will happen. My only hope is that, people kind of step back and go, wait a second, because this is going to affect everybody. And it's the only hope I have is that people, wait a second, this is affecting me. And that's kind of the message I always say to my friends, like, this affects all of us, but I don't know what's going to happen. And I think it's a very legitimate fear. I mean, and I'm sorry you're going through that. And that's why I'm glad you're here and we're all here, So.
I really want to be optimistic. I'm an optimistic person by nature, but I just feel like after what we've seen, I'm struggling to hold on to that optimism. Really struggling to hold on to it, because I don't see a lot around me happening that gives me a lot of hope for it. So I hope I'm wrong. I really hope that something unexpected happens and something turns this around, and but I just don't. I don't know. I'm scared, really scared that that's just not in the cards at the moment.
I'm not gonna bite my tongue. I feel an urge to bite my tongue, but I want to uh, elaborate just a little bit on why I am so doubtful that we do turn things around for the better. Um, there's a analogy that I used years ago in economics that I think applies to this situation as well, which is that of a car that skids on ice. Um, we've probably all, driven on ice or snowy roads and know this experience. Once 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 the car loses traction, the statistical chances of reestablishing a safe course down the middle of the road become infinitesimal, almost zero. Um, no matter how good your skills and your calculations are, because once the traction is gone, there's the control mechanism is completely lost. And that's what I perceive we're living through. I think the car has started to skid beyond the point where control can be regained. Um, just from a statistical point of view, or a probabilistic point of view, I can't conceive of a set of circumstances in which all of this shit that we're witnessing just subsides and that we reestablish any kind of what any of us would consider to be normalcy. Um, so I'm not trying to panic anyone, but on the other hand, we all we've referred multiple times to the extreme example of 1930s Germany, which is, in recent history or perhaps in all of history, the most extreme example. I'm sure there were lots and lots of people who were within a hair's breadth of taking action but didn't, because of inertia, because of fear, because of, just hoping for the best. And that would suck if that was the decision that you made, if you were really close um, to doing something different than that. So that's that's a big part of what I hope that this group is about, is because I see so many people who I think are paralyzed right now, paralyzed with fear, paralyzed with just um, Alice, I think you used the word fog, just not having any clue what to make of it.
Mhm.
And you can be stuck there, and you can end there if you don't
Mhm.
somehow.
I think for me it's exhausting is the right word. It's so exhausting. Sometimes I have to just tune out. I'll admit it. I just have to, turn off the news and take a break for a day or two because I just get overwhelmed and exhausted by it. And it really, like, genuinely affects my health. And I have to kind of
Mhm.
take a step back. And I'd say a lot of people are probably like that.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I have very precarious mental health at the best of times. It's a pervasive issue for me. Affects every aspect of my life, and I, I sometimes I just can't. And I don't need to watch all the news or read all the news. One picture of what's happening in LA tells me everything I need to know. It's just like I don't know. Yeah, but then I feel guilty for like not trying to be more on top of what's happening. But like if I don't know. It's just such a hard balance. That's why I really feel for you, Alice, in the school system. It's just such a hard balance. I want to be responsible. I want to be present. I want to be aware. I want to be mindful of what's happening, but also like on the best of days, I'm barely holding my shit together, even without like outside circumstances, because my brain chemistry is just kind of fucked to start with. So it's just, but yeah, so I hear that from you, Gil. Also, I definitely understand that.
I think that's something else that I've realized. I think that I don't know. I've always known that I've always known on some level that the systems were set against us, right? Like I think most of us have at some point in our lives experienced that. But I think just the realization, the very stark realization that when you see people who are paralyzed and people who may want to do something, but they're caught in the grip of capitalism and these systems where they're like, yeah, I'd love to go out and I'd love to stand up and I'd love to do something about this, but I have to go to work because I have to put food on the table. And, it's just a different, I don't know. I see people just around me being absolutely crushed by it, just economically crushed by it, emotionally crushed by it, socially crushed by it because they've lost respect or people that they care about, or their own families are fractured and they've lost their support systems because they found out my dad's gone down the dark side, like can't even talk to him anymore. So people are losing people that they care about, and they're barely hanging on to their jobs. And so it feels like an impossible situation for most people who, given a different set of circumstances where maybe they didn't have all those other things happening, they might be able to stand up. But then you see the effects of the machine. The machine is the one that keeps us unable to be able to take those kind of steps, because I have to get up and go to work. I would love to be able to go and protest all day as well, but I also have a mortgage to pay. So I don't know. It just has gotten to where it feels like an impossible set of circumstances for the average person to navigate.
If I could just jump in there, it's funny, my daughter and I talk about these subjects a lot, and they're like kind of like, I mean, like almost counterculture. And it's funny because they actually have their finger on the pulse of this thing that you're talking about. And I think Josh and I have had these conversations because of other stuff that we'll do. But one of the things that I've come to the realization of, I'm 53, is that capitalism, socialism, all these systems, none of them will ever function properly. And we're not only are we dealing with that, but we're dealing with this thing where it's like we're kind of as a society running out of like the oxygen that makes a society function. And it really wouldn't matter what skin you put on that, the problem will exist in some form. And I'm trying to be very generic with this, and I think part of the realization is that there's so much to unpack, but what you're touching on is, well, this is unsustainable. And the truth is that, like protesting is a great point. We don't really have a healthy opposition to Trump. He's a political mastermind, whether you like him or not. He's eviscerated the political structure. So it's not even like when you're standing on the street corner or going to some rally, there's something you can point to that's going to fix that.
Mm-hmm.
And there is something as a collective group of people that we can do. We can lay down. We can literally just be like, we're not going to be a part of that. But there's no alternative. So all of these things are like little blocks that I feel are stacked against well-intentioned people, and a lot of people who aren't even thinking the way you are. They're just like, God, I don't know what to do. Like I have a friend, and she's a really well-meaning person, but she's your classic like hashtag, free Palestine, but she'll ultimately vote for the person who's going to literally fund the bombs that will kill kids. Like, but so the point is there's like almost no there's just no easy answer. And I think it's okay to think about your well-being and then asking yourself, what can you do here? I just know I don't want to be my grandfather. For me, like that's really critical that I don't lend to that. And part of what I do is kind of what you're doing, but I don't want to lend. I don't want to be in that environment. I want to be a part of that if that's what were to happen. And maybe that makes me like cowardly or something. But I also realize when somebody's in power and they have real power, they'll just make an example of us. They'll make an example of whoever they need to. I mean, and that's not really going to save anybody in the end. And so I often wonder what you do in a moment like this. And I think what we're doing as a group is saying, like, look, maybe together collectively, we at least look out for a group of us. That's not solving the world's problems, but maybe it helps each other a little bit more, even if it's just, like I said, mutual aid or, a literal lifeboat. But all I can say is that it's not weird to feel kind of hopeless. And I think it's important to recognize that your emotions are the state of your feelings are 1000% valid, and caring about our feelings is important. So important to take care of our mental health.
I'm trying to grab an image to see if I can put it in our Zoom chat here. Just that strikes me as relevant to what we're talking about here. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. This is very consistent with how I think about how to deal with this situation. As most of you know, I've stopped playing the lesser evil game, and I believe it's not a good option, but the best option available is to withdraw our energies from any of this. Just step away from it and go somewhere else. The earth is pretty big. That's something that I drove across the country like 5 or 6 times, and and I had the same experience of flying over Peru, which is mostly empty space. The same thing is actually true of Japan. Japan, where we have this image of this place that's just jam-packed full of people, but it's not. It's like most of those people are all jammed together in small pockets, and there's a huge amount of empty space. So to me, that just hopefully there's enough space where you can go and not be ground up by this process that we all seem to see similarly. So that's kind of what I'm
Yeah, and Josh, and just to point out, like the technology which we're viewing the world through, everyone here needs to realize that this is algorithmic and it's bought and paid for simultaneously. So you have a system that's designed to deliver you information as desired by other people. And it's also based on what you're focusing on. So, when you see and you spend just 30 seconds on an image that's heartbreaking, it's going to deliver more heartbreaking images. And that doesn't mean that you avert your eyes from tragedy or something, but it's like, Alice, you're working in this field. Like if you had a person come to you and say, I saw a person get into a car accident and I can't sleep at night, right? You most probably would say something like, you witnessed a traumatic event, right? And you need to process that. Like I'm not a psychologist, but I'm guessing you would give somebody advice like that in some generic way. We're watching traumatic events 100 times a day, and that's not by accident. So, in some other world, you would never witness this much difficulty. And so we're all, I think, it's something we have to keep in mind. I'm just saying, it's like there, what we're all feeling is a combination of like high-powered gaslighting, high-powered technical efforts to literally wear people down. I mean, it's just kind of crazy. So, feeling stressed out, it's not surprising to me. I'm constantly checking my head, like I would if I was being gaslit or something. Like, is what I'm seeing real? Is this bullshit?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean that's a great point. We're spoon fed so many things that are designed that way, and so it's been hard for me personally to try to strike a balance between trying to stay informed and also trying to navigate around those things. So I think that that's where I've been struggling a little bit. You know, do I look away? Do I look away or do I stay informed? And so um, I don't know. I know that we all just have to make our own decisions about how much of those kinds of things we can tolerate and, have to protect ourselves in the best ways that we can. So I guess it's a balance that I felt like I had found it sort of until this week. And then like I said, this week has just felt so heavy that it just has felt like it has changed some of that. So
I have to go in a minute, y'all, but I'm really glad I was here tonight, and definitely please send me the invite again for the. You may have already sent me the. I don't even know what Discord is, quite frankly. I won't lie, but I and Michael, I would love to hear more about the if the if is he still here? Anyhow, the AI language learning stuff. But thank you so much, Josh, and thank all of you. It's been really enjoyable to talk with you guys.
A good group therapy session, if nothing else. And I think all of us need that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Michael, he was on his way to pick up Arunima. So he's left the Zoom. Betsy, you need to go. Think maybe unless anybody else has anything to say, maybe wrap it up and let's all try to see each other on Discord and do this again in a month's time.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
bye.
See you guys.
Take care.
Bye.